Yo, yo, yo. Hello and welcome back to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 91. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about triggers, personal standards, how that can drive team standards, and how to make sure that you're actually doing the work when it matters. So I've had a couple of conversations with a few clients this week where I'm not immune to this by any stretch, but where we've discussed how to get yourself in the mode of either doing the final chunk of exercises, the final bit of accessory work, even just finishing that last little set of your superset or your circuit and pushing through. Because a lot of the time when you're training, it's late at night. Well, for me personally, it's late at night, or even if it was first thing in the morning, you might be in a bit of a rush and you just think, oh, it's easier for me to just, go and jump in the shower and then shoot off to work, or easy enough for me to, like, my own personal point of view, it's easier for me to just kind of finish the training session there, lock up the gym, head home, sit on the sofa by the fire, eat my food, and get a nice early night. But the I think the whole point is, how do you avoid that kind of little crumb of comfort and leave off and delay that gratification until later on? So we're going to go a little bit through that. But first of all, I just want to share with you a couple of quick little training things that I've got going on this week. So if you were to head over to my YouTube channel, which is had a rebrand, it's had a bit of a rebrand. So I've got some new logos coming for that soon. Just changed the name of it to make it more uniform across the other platforms that I'm operating on, mainly Instagram. So if you were to look for my YouTube channel, if you're not subscribed already, get subscribed to that, because I'm always dropping the podcast go up on there as well. So you can listen to it or watch it on my YouTube channel. I'm always posting new content. There's always instructional videos, even some videos that are just getting added to my exercise library, which is expanding all the time when I'm able to A, film it and set aside the time to do that, B, edit it, and then C, upload it. It seems to take me forever. It seems to take fucking ages, and even then, it's not perfect. I'm not satisfied with it, but they go up anyway. So even if you are just looking for some simple changes, some simple exercises to add into your routine, spice things up, change things up, and stop yourself from being bored, stagnant, or stuck in the same routine, make sure you get subscribed to my YouTube channel. If you search Alex Lenkowski Performance, the same as my Instagram handle, then you will see the channel pop up there. Click subscribe and tune in for some of those videos and some of those drops on a hopefully a more consistent basis. I am aiming to get a few more done every single week and just be consistently adding to it. So you've got 546 videos on there at the minute to choose from, and I've got about another 546 saved on my phone that I need to get around to updating. So this week, one of the key features was for some shoulder mobility. So I think contact sport, collision sport, and generally just training the gym quite a lot, because of the nature of the shoulder joint and how it has such a propensity to be unstable. And there is a lot, like, it's a very shallow ball and socket joint, unlike the hip, where there's a lot of musculature that has to cover the area and hold it in place. Like, the tendons and ligaments have to do a little bit more work due to the nature of the joint, but it can be very, very easy for that joint to seize up and become limited with range, mobility, and even then, because of that, impede strength. So there is a banded distraction video demonstrating 4 simple positions that you can work yourself into using a resistant, nothing more than a resistance band that's fixed or attached to a pull-up bar or the top of a rig at around head height. And you can cycle through those different positions and create, I want to say create a completely different feeling around the joint, but like discover a whole new world of range and mobility and movement for you there. So you can either add that in as a warm up. If you're going to do it as a warm up, I would recommend don't hold the stretch for too long. You don't want to, like you don't want to overstretch anything to start your workout. You still need a bit of stability and a bit of activation. So even if you do it for shorter periods, do it for shorter breaths. Don't spend as long in the band. Maybe just do 3 to 5 reps of each position with short, fast breaths, and then still do some activation work after that, whether it's wall slides, whether it's single arm shoulder taps, whether it's some form of single arm pressing, add in some form of stability movement for the shoulder. Again, add in pull aparts, probably one of my favorite exercises to do for shoulder health. Add those in before you then go and do any pushing, pulling, throwing, etc. And if you're going to do it at the end of a workout, that's when you can then really take your time on it, slow it all down, slow your breathing right down, long, full exhales, empty your lungs, controlled, relaxed breaths in, and feel the benefits. Feel the benefits. Increase the number of reps. You can go anywhere from 5 to 10, and a much longer duration for doing it at that part of your training session. So go and check out the bandage distraction video. I will pop it in the show notes for this podcast episode so you can find it very easily. You'll be able to find the YouTube channel there as well. And have a little crack at that. If you do try that this week, let me know, drop me a message, send me a comment on the YouTube video so I know that you've seen it, and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how it helps you. I've already had quite a few people benefit from it. This is part of the whole irritating filming process for me. This is a video that I filmed a long time ago, and it's one of those videos where I filmed it, watched it back, and then it took me about 20 minutes to film it all. I'm talking to the camera again late at night. I've just finished training. I've been working with clients all evening, finished training. I thought, you know what? I need to film the video, start watching it back. No sound. Microphone was dead, no charge. And that's the kind of thing that just eats away at your soul a little bit. So finally got back around to doing it again. Hopefully you feel the benefits from it. Hopefully you find it very, very useful. The second thing, little example of like, there were a couple of little things I'm playing around with at the minute. So yesterday's training says I am very, very sore from this. So I've tried to save. So the way my training program looks at the moment, I've got my leg, speed, strength, and power work towards the start of the week. And then I'm still fresh for when it comes to kicking and training on the Wednesday at the Manchester Titans training sessions. And then Thursday is going to be my, should we say, well, it still incorporates some kicking specific movements, still incorporates speed and power, but that's where I'm then going to go a little bit harder, a little bit more detail, and like not really worry about any DOMs or soreness that comes across as a result of that. So that's what I'm going to work with. And that's the pattern I'm sticking to at the moment. So always at the start of the workout, I'll be doing some form of hip activation, glute activation, getting the legs going, getting the hips going, stabilizing the core, working the foot and the ankle. And then once I've done that, I've actually started using something called the monkey foot. And I have heard Joe Rogan speak about this before, but we've had one in the gym. Mike got one in quite a while back, and it's something I used, you know, on and off very briefly for working the hip flexors, working the hamstrings. And if you think about it as like, if you've ever busted a leg or broken an ankle or something, like if you've ended up in a boot, it looks a little bit like that. So it's a really small kind of boot type thing where you can lock your foot into it. And when you close it up to that secure position on the bottom of your foot, it has the ability to grab and hold a dumbbell. So essentially you've got a dumbbell attached to the bottom of your foot, and it just allows you that freedom of movement, that range. So if you wanted to do like prone lying leg curls, if you wanted to do some hip flexor pulls off of it. In this case, I was doing I was doing a bit of a combination of the two. So I was doing some hip flexor lifts, bringing the knee up above hip height. And then the other two that I was doing, imagine kind of a standing leg swing. So I have to have my left foot on the box and be able to raise my right leg as far up in front as possible as through kind of a kicking range of movement pattern. And the good thing with that one is I can actually practice that at a slightly more ballistic speed as well. So you can get a bit more of a swing going, bit more range, bit more speed, work at a faster pace. Not with mega weights, doesn't require it. You can really isolate some specific parts of the movements that you want to be working on, and some standing hamstring curls as well, which was actually quite fun. They were quite painful. So a couple of really, really useful little things with the monkey foot. And again, these are video. I have filmed all these. These will be going onto my YouTube channel. So make sure you check those out. Then after doing all that, the main block of the strength work was very, very simple, very, very short. Front squats, 3 sets of 6 heavy, so a few warm-up sets building up to that, and then working sort of close to 6 RM. Like we want that 6th rep to be a real grind and not to be easy whatsoever. From the front squats, going into good mornings, again, a bit more hamstring work, a little bit of hypertrophy work, 5 sets of 10 on that. And then here's the spicy bit, the tasty bit. This is the bit that I want you to have a go at. This is a double whammy. So working sled drags. So with this, what was it? The priority for me on this was to work that terminal knee extension, that final bit of the push. So I'm actually facing the sled, pulling the sled backwards towards me, and just working that lockout. So real quad burner. And then I think that was 25 meters. So 12.5 meters one way, 12.5 meters back. And then straight off the back of that, pick up a couple of kettlebells. I think they were 16 kilos each. And then doing the same distance of walking lunges, which is where the additional depth and the range comes from. And inevitably, the burn is deep and the DOMs are substantial. So I did, that was 5 sets of that yesterday, and it got to about, I think it was a finish with 100 kilos on the sled, started at 80. I want to say it was 80. The two sets of 80, a set of 90, 2 sets of 100, something like that. That was more or less the plan. So it's just towards that top end high effort. And it's, when people say, oh, well, what would you class as heavy on the sled? Unfortunately, there isn't a universal transferable weight. It's not like what's heavy for a back squat. It's literally the sleds are different. The surface you're using it on changes. They're different from gym to gym. So it's completely variable. I would just say it depends on your current circumstances, your current training, your current environment. You just have to go off your rate of perceived exertion. Like, what do you feel is difficult? What do you feel is a substantial effort? And work with that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and this was the main thing that I started off with in this episode. So triggers, personal standards, being able to push through and do the work, especially when it's, circumstances aren't ideal. You might have a long run to go out on, and it might be dark, raining, cold. It's cold and windy at the minute. Same thing, training sessions, might be a late night training session. You might have not slept well the night before. You might have had a hell of a day, busy, tired, lethargic. It's how do you then push through and make sure you're finishing the job? Like, there was a session I was doing with one of my clients the other day, and he genuinely said to me, he said, if you weren't here, I probably wouldn't have done that final set. Probably wouldn't have done the final 2 sets. And at that point, I think we talked about that a little bit, actually, because my question was why? Why wouldn't you have done it? And the bottom line is there isn't really an excuse. There isn't really a valid reason as to why you wouldn't do it. You'd probably, maybe you just sit there and you think, well, I've done enough. And to be honest, there are some situations where you can look at your training program, you can look at your day, you can look at your training session, view your week overall across the span of those last 7 days, assess the way your body feels. And sometimes you might make a smart decision, especially if you're doing speed and power training, where the intensity of the repetitions drops, the distance you're covering, the speed you're covering, the speed you're traveling at, the time you're covering the distance in might fall off a cliff. And at that point, your training stimulus is shifting. It's no longer what you're targeting. So if you were doing sprint work, if you're covering, let's call it a 40-yard sprint, and you're covering it in 4.7 seconds. You do 4.7, 4.7, 4.72, 4.75, 4.75, 4.76, and then you go 4.85. You're done. You don't need to do any more because you're no longer operating at that maximal percentage. Yes, it might be a maximal effort percentage, but in terms of the actual speed you're traveling at, the percentage of your top speed is way below par. So you're just getting better at traveling at a slightly slow speed. So everything is shifting. The stimulus isn't the same. And at that point, it's probably the smart thing to do to drop out and recover. Again, there are some training sessions where you might get towards the end and be like, my body is completely broken, completely battered. The only thing you would gain from continuing would be should we say, the mental fortitude and the adversity and just making yourself suffer, which that's, guilty of doing that. There are times where I just think, what, I'm just going to see how horrible I can make this just to see how I respond to it. Can I survive it? Will I be all right? Am I going to keep going? And just to test yourself. And in a way, that is a little bit, I suppose, a bit of self-harming. But if you think about it from an intelligent training standpoint, an intelligent session design, a lot of, well, the very best programs are designed to be progressively more difficult or progressively more challenging, or to build you up to overcome a certain stimulus, should we say, or perform to a specific demand point. So you need to be able to handle the sets, the reps. It shouldn't just come as a big shock. Like, I think at the minute, like obviously with the CrossFit Open starting last week 2 today, essentially that's what happens a lot in CrossFit. It's not necessarily a progressive form of programming. It's kind of random workouts that are developed week in, week out, and they're all standalone workouts. You could go and do them at any point in time, and it's just a bit of a challenge. It's just a workout. It's not necessarily a training session, because the question is, well, what are you training for? All right. It would be different if you were on a specific weightlifting program to get better at your clean and jerk or improve your snatch. Like, there are elements of that might carry over and filter through from week to week, which is useful. That is training. But as standalone workouts, not necessarily progressive if it's a completely different workout to the one that you've done the week before. Okay, so there should be a consistent theme through your training program. That doesn't mean you're having a massive shock every single time you train. Essentially, in the world that we're talking about here, or the world I'm talking about here, is you have specific tasks that you need to be very, very capable of handling, dealing with, and overcoming. And that just comes through consistent practice. So you shouldn't get to the end of your training sessions and think, oh, fuck, where's that come from? Like, what the hell is that? What am I doing here? It should be, okay, well, it's a tiny bit more than last week. I know I did last week. I can handle that. So when it comes to doing the final part of your session, or the last couple of sets, my kind of thought process with this was, well, why aren't you able to do them? Why would you duck out? What's your thought process? Talk me through that. We have a conversation about that, and then it's, well, how could it be any different? What would keep you going? Like, what's the difference of me being here versus me not being here and you still doing it? What would have to happen? What's your visualization? What's your motivation? What's your self-talk? If you like, you have to consider all these things. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, there are times in workouts where in the past I've definitely gone, do you know what, fuck this, I have just had enough, I'm going home, I can't be bothered, I don't want to do it. And you dip out to my shame. But it's, how do you stop that? How do you make sure that you're pushing through, doing the necessary work to get better and improve all the time? And I think a big part of this is you have to forget everything else that is happening later. If you're training, your training has to be your priority. Like, ditch your phone, Ditch any thoughts of what you're doing later in the day, ditch any thoughts of comforts at home, ditch any thoughts about going to bed early, even though sleep is important. But you have to park all of those things, leave them off to one side, and focus on exactly what is going on in the moment, in the gym, where you're training, what you're doing, your next set. Get yourself immersed in your session. If it means turning up the music, cranking up the volume, keeping like a hoodie on just to keep yourself. What's like one of the issues I have in the gym is once everyone clears out in the evening when there's no one else in there, it gets cold. It gets cold very, very quickly, especially through winter. If you're doing strength sessions, which means you frequently are hanging around 2-3 minutes, fully recovering in between sets, it gets a little bit unpleasant. And because you sat there, you're on your own, you're with your thoughts. That's where the propensity for these thoughts of like, oh, I don't like this, creep in, and the desire to just go home increases massively. So I'd say control what you can control. If you can turn your music up, get yourself focused on it, wear warmer clothing. These are all kinds of things that I've done before as well. But the biggest thing you can do is remind yourself of what you're training for. What's the point of being there? Visualize your opponent, your teammate taking your spot, your opponent beating you in your one-on-one, not being able to dominate and perform as you want to, what your standards are on the pitch, whether it's the training pitch or on a match day. You have to see that motivator. If it is to win a national title, a league title, a cup, a trophy, of anything, or to just be a top contributor in your team, make sure you're playing your part to elevate the team to the highest standard possible, then these are the things that are going to drive you and push you further and further and further. And all of this is just part of your standards. What is your standard? If you're clear on that, if you're clear on what your level is, what your goal is, what your target is, you can settle into that. You can be more comfortable with that, and it's going to make the work easier. It's never going to make it harder. Being comfortable with your standards and recognizing them never makes things more difficult. And when I say think about your standards, I mean think about them, write them down, and once you've written them down, look at them and think about them a little bit more. I was having a conversation with someone else this week about this very sort of thing, is that most people don't think anymore, which is why I love doing this podcast. This is something that just, even if you weren't listening to me, this is my thought dump. This is my kind of like diary in a way, if you like. So it forces you to write things down, prepare things, analyze information, analyze details, reflect on it. What do I really think about it? And say form an opinion, but have a perspective over the situation. And if you can do that about your own motivations, your own standards, it becomes very empowering. It gives you the potential to push on even further. And once you've done this, understand that there are going to be these moments that crop up where you will want to bail out, you'll want to drop early, you'll want to quit, you'll want to, ring the metaphorical bell in terms of Navy SEAL training. And understand that those moments are going to occur. You are going to have that desire to be, oh, don't want to do it. Don't feel like it today. There is an easier way today. And you want to take the easy route. In that moment, what you need is a trigger that says, fuck off, I'm going anyway. And you make your mind up that no matter what, whatever doubts or thoughts or comforts creep in and play a role in not doing the work, you're able to recognize it, see it, shut it down. You've already got a pre-plan, like a plan of action dialed in for that scenario. And you have that mental trigger, whether it's a verbal, whether it's a phrase, one specific word, a specific movement, a change in your physiology, you've got something there that can be that little spark to push you on and keep you moving forward. So have that trigger. Very, very simple. My trigger at the minute is let's go. I'll think about what it is that I've got to do. And there isn't a thought of, oh, don't want to do it. I've kind of cancelled that out. And it's just let's go. What do I need to do? Go, let's go. Gotta go and put the washing on in a minute. Let's go. That's the kind of thing I'm doing at the minute. And it works incredibly effectively, but you have to spend the time thinking about it, focusing on it at the minute. Like yesterday, I did not want to do that final set of sled drags. Even the dog was taking pity on me. He was in the gym with me, walking up and down the gym, following me every step of the way on that 25-meter sled drag and the lunges. Got to the end of set 4 and I was like, oh, fuck. One more set, let's go. And there was no real rest time in between the two either. It was maybe a minute. It was a minute. I was timing it on my watch. It was a minute in between each set. It was just, you see the seconds tick down, and that minute always always goes like a flash. You get to 50, 55 seconds, you see it, you go, oh, one more set, let's go. Pick it up and move. That's the plan. So decide your own standards, decide the kind of person you want to be, the kind of teammate you want to be, kind of athlete you want to be, and work on that. Work on that mental side of your game. Work on the mental side of your game that is going to benefit you in training and on the pitch, the court, wherever your sporting arena is. And this all filters through to the final thing that I kind of wanted to go over today, which is, I suppose, is it twofold, threefold, fourfold, maybe, which is your personal standards will affect the team standards. If you're comfortable with sitting around, taking the easy out, finishing early, the rest of your team will be more comfortable with it. If you've got someone in the team that doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to keep quiet, will keep pushing, will keep driving, will shout, will piss people off, then good. You need those people. You need that person that's going to get pissed, angry, hold people to account, drag the standard up. They are beneficial in every single team. And the more of those people you have in each team, the better, the stronger, the harder that team is going to be to beat and compete against. And for me, this filters through, like, I think I might have mentioned it on the previous podcast, Paul Pogba taking shortcuts, banned for the next 4 years. Probably going to be the end of his career. Although, realistically, he hasn't really played for the last 4 years anyway, so I don't see what the difference is. I think someone asked me, oh, well, how can they stop him from playing football? What's he going to do? Well, he'll just do the same thing he's done for the last 8 years of his career anyway, which is fuck around playing basketball in Miami and messing around on Instagram. So, go and do TikTok dances, be a professional TikToker. That's what Paul Pogba can do. Personal standards, drags the team down. Low-level individual, like, I don't know, say low-level individual, he's probably one of the most talented footballers of a generation who has massively underdelivered, which is incredible. Like, that is probably one of the biggest disappointments, probably one of the worst things you can ever say about anybody. And this leads me on to my next man who is really irritating me at the minute. And he's irritating me because I want him to be outstanding. I want him to be world class. I want him to be someone that delivers week in, week out, because he's shown so much promise, so much potential. And at the minute, to me, he just looks lost. And this is Marcus Rashford. Last weekend, Manchester Derby. I will say that I'm not upset about it. I'm not disappointed in it. What I thought would happen, happened, which is Man City dominating possession, clear, easy winners in the end, and very little in the way of a fight from United. That's my perspective on it, and I will explain that a bit more. But Marcus Rashford creeps into the forefront of my mind because I've been watching him closely for quite a while now, and he is coming across as someone who is a little bit lost, whether in his game, his personal life, his his own mindset. It's like he's trying to be somebody, and he doesn't need to try to be anybody. And I think the biggest thing that irritates me about Marcus at the minute is I just want to see the fight. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about how well he plays, his rating out of 10. I just want to see him fight. At the minute, he looks down, he looks depressed, he looks upset, he looks miffed. He doesn't look like he's enjoying himself. It's like he's trying to be really controlled. I think his celebration with his, pointing to his temple, I feel like for someone that loves the game, loves the club so much, like having that as a kind of like fucking enjoy yourself, man. Go out there and love every minute. Stop hanging around trying to be all calm, collected. Go and be angry for a minute. Go and get really irritated with someone. Go and get sent off once in a while. Just go and launch into someone, because at the minute, from what I'm seeing, he's not engaging in physical battles. If there's a 50-50 ball through the air that he can potentially win, he seems to deliberately jump in front of it and completely miss it. Very rarely see him win a header. Very rarely see him hold the ball up. And I don't want to be critical because it's incredibly tough at that level, but I just feel like he should be so much more. And I think it's like he's in his own head. He's getting in his own way, and he's not just playing the game. Like, think about when he first started, and this is a lesson to anybody that progresses through the levels, whether it's a semi-professional, professional, senior level. Just play the game. Don't worry about anything else. Just play the game. Do what you've done for your entire life leading up to that point. Play the game, score goals, take your shots, take your chances. Play it in a manner that you would be proud of when you finish your career, when you look back. Don't hold back. Don't be sorry. Don't be apologetic to anybody. Just absolutely go for it, because when Marcus Rashford burst onto the scene, I say burst onto the scene like Mika Richards did, when he came out of the blocks in his first game, and he just had a moment. There wasn't any thinking. It was just he just reacted to everything, just did what came naturally. And it's like I say, at the minute he's overthinking every single thing. And I suppose I'm comparing his performances at the minute to Hoyland, where I watched the game against Luton a few weeks back, and I apologize if you're not interested in football or listening to me talk about it, but the game against Luton a few weeks back, where we managed to just sneak a win, and we should have scored 5, 6, 7 goals in that game. I looked at Hoyland after like 20, 30 minutes, and his shirt was just, he looked like he'd just been dragged up and down the pitch through the mud. He was completely covered in it, and he looked absolutely battered. He looked like he'd been in a scrap. And Marcus just, his kit was pristine. It was just like he was afraid of having to have it washed. It's like he's saving it for next week, or saving it for taking home, or donating to charity or something like that. He didn't want to get it dirty. And there's a couple of situations where I I'm sure, hopefully this isn't too critical, and if he ever did listen to me talk about this, I would say the same thing to his face, but being soft as fuck. There's a couple of moments where he's jumped in the air, he might have copped a hand to the face. And to be honest, this goes for all footballers as well. If you're in an aerial battle and you get a little flick to the face, get up and get on with it. Stop being so wet. Stop being so weak. Get up and have a bit of fight about yourself. Don't lie on the ground in the penalty area holding your cheek for 2 or 3 minutes when there is nothing wrong with you. Just get on with the game. Same thing in the Manchester derby. Similar situation. He's actually more or less through one-on-one in behind Kyle Walker, and he felt a tap on the arm and threw himself on the floor. Get up and crack on. Stop diving and rolling around. Play the game. Stop trying to be someone. Stop trying to be clever. Stop overthinking things, and just play, and bring a bit of aggression to it. And like the Manchester derby again, I'm going to finish on this note. And I'm not upset about it. I'm not disappointed. I'm not angry. Probably should be, but the way that we played, I was fine with that. It was exactly what I was expecting. Yes, we were compact. We were, say, difficult to break down. We were sort of tough to break down for the first half an hour or so when we were throwing a few counter punches with a few counter attacks. We had three great chances. Well, say three great chances, two great chances, and then that absolute wonder goal from Rashford. Those two other chances being the moments where he completely fluffed up, but I'll pass over that because everyone makes mistakes. But I expected us to sit deep. I didn't expect us to sit as deep as that. And I certainly didn't expect the reaction of everybody in football to be like, it was a good Man United performance. Same thing from Ten Hag, good performance. We had City had more shots than we had possession. How is that a good performance? And then the other problem was that once we'd scored the goal, we were more or less playing attack versus defense for the rest of the game. And if you give City the ball, you let them have it, they will pull you to pieces. Yes, you can play zonal marking, but that's what they love. That's what they're designed to do. They're brilliant at playing against that. That's their entire system of play is designed to break down those little organized blocks, those little banks of four. They almost don't want to put crosses in because they just want to pass through you, pass you to death, and work you from side to side, which they're so incredibly good at. And then when you've got people that can pick you apart, and then on the occasions when they can't do that, you've got the likes of Phil Foden scoring, screaming, absolute screamers, and hitting wonder goals from 30 yards, then it's all bases covered. There is never going to be a lack of opportunity, and there is always going to be a way to win the game. So that's part of it. And playing against that, hope is not a strategy. Sitting back for 90 minutes and letting them do their thing is not a good way to go. Yeah, you can play counter-attacking football, but I think one of the problems, I don't understand why teams let City have the ball so much. Like, why not? Like, I look at the way that Inter Milan played against them in the Champions League final last year, and yeah, they lost, but I think Inter Milan could have easily won that game on another day. And are Inter Milan really that good? No. But did they bring the energy? Yes, absolutely. And I think the thing they did really well was they locked on. They went man for man, personal battles. They were aggressive. They were in the face. They forced Man City to move the ball quickly, but they also forced them up the pitch. They forced them towards their own goal to the point where they had to shoot or they had to play a risky pass. Or if you imagine a centre half dribbling out from the back, being pressurized from behind, he can't turn around and play the safe pass back to his goalkeeper and regain the shape and regain the possession. If you lock off one side of their defense, block off that route back to the keeper, force them to play that ball forwards into traffic, where your teammates who are also man for man can lock on and get tight with someone, it forces them to work a lot harder. It forces them to play riskier passes that give you more of a chance of winning the ball back and launching a counter attack, as opposed to just sitting behind, let them have it in front of you, knock it around side to side. You do loads of running, they create a chance, and you get the ball back when they miss it. Terrible idea. And I'm bored of it. I'm bored of that being the level and the standard for Man United. And I will be, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about football. If the rumours are true and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos guys are seriously contemplating Gareth Southgate, I think I will completely give up football. I will not be interested whatsoever if that's what happens. And I might end up being wrong. It might be a great move. But if that happens, I'm done with it. I'm absolutely done with it. Yes, there we go. A little bit of a rant about football there, but standards are important. Doing the work, you cannot cheat it. That is important. Make sure you set yourself those little triggers, those little like visualize and see and reflect and predict these kind of pinch points, pressure points where your training is going to be difficult. The pull to do other things is going to be there. Lock on, focus, get it done. If you find that useful, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a comment, leave a review, like and subscribe, share it with someone else. That would be absolutely wicked. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to catch up with all the little videos that I will be posting over the next few days, weeks, and well, months and years to come. I'm not going to stop. So that is it from me. That is episode 91. I will speak to you again soon. Lenko out.